Now here to shed more light on the issue is Roman Vащук, former Canadian ambassador to Ukraine. Hello, sir, and welcome to Eastern Express.
Glad to be with you. The EU's Ukraine facility is pumping money into Ukraine, so are many other allies. The Ukrainian economy continues to recover. Despite the blows it's been suffering, it's probably going to grow by about 4 to 5% this year. So Ukraine is not on the ropes. It has challenges. It's had challenges with mobilization, but that in part is also a morale question. So a counteroffensive like this helps improve morale and makes it more likely that people will sign up when they're called up for duty.
Right, and speaking on the economic side of things, I'm also wondering about the aid that's coming into Ukraine from Western countries, or even like in Canada. How has that changed throughout this war so far?
You know, I think there has been a big wave of support. Then there was an ebbing. What we've seen now is more of an institutionalization of that support. As I mentioned, the EU-Ukraine facility, 50 billion euros in total, gives Ukraine a planning horizon. So does the US 60 billion allocation in both military and economic aid for this year and part of next year. So essentially, Ukraine is okay, certainly till the middle of 25, in certain respects till 2027. That means that Ukrainian businesses can plan for the future. It means that the population doesn't have to worry about the currency falling off a cliff next week. What we're seeing is a controlled devaluation, probably from the current level of around 41 hryvnia to the dollar, to the US dollar, to about 42.5 by the end of the year. So all that aid, what it does is it gives people a sense that the situation is controlled, that there is some planning certainty.
All right, it's very, very fascinating phenomenon. I would like to focus a little bit, again, back on the economic side of things, because you're just mentioning that somehow Ukraine was able to avoid their currency or their economy going into a free fall, even with these devastating war going on. Can you help us understand the mechanism behind it?
Well, you know, some of it is pretty counterintuitive. The Ukrainian economy has many problems. People have spent years writing about them. Some of those problems turned out to be hidden strength in a super crisis like this one. In other words, if Ukraine had totally successfully turned into a Western type economy, very dependent on banks, very dependent on people being over-levered with huge loans, then a war like this would have crushed the economy. But since the Ukrainian banking system is liquid, operational, but most companies have grown organically, i.e. without huge loans, they've been able to withstand both missile attacks, economic uncertainty, and continue operating. One of my close contacts in my current role as business-ombudsman, published a Facebook post this morning about his glass factory. The glass factory is operating a turnover of 50 million US a year, exporting to 20 countries from Ukraine right now. So I think part of it is, and something that people in Poland will recognize, and is that Ukraine, by European standards, is a big country. So shocks along the front line don't mean everything has to stop. 600 or 1,000 kilometers further west within the country. So it means that there's resilience. Give you another little example. The Russian occupation of part of Kherson Oblast cut off one of Ukrainians' favorite summertime treats, which is watermelons from Kherson, traditionally brought up by barge along the Dnipro. Now they come from the Danube area, Bessarabia, near Romania. Farmers there, private farmers, have simply switched to watermelons, and now the supermarkets are full of Danubian watermelons. So Ukraine has that resiliency and has a business community that can see a niche quickly and reorient, reshuffle to fill it.
That's actually very fascinating. And I'm also wondering if you can help us understand, once the war is over, how does this type of economy, the way it functions, can interact with a recovery plan? Or in other words, when other countries are coming in to help Ukraine rebuild the country, how will this kind of economic system play a part?
Yeah, I think Ukraine will have a lot of lessons on corporate resilience. I think Ukrainians can probably make a living giving workshops to people in other countries on resilience in future. It will also have some sectors that are world leading. I mean, basically drone technology, electronic warfare technology, various forms of resilient networks. Ukrainians now are innovating every week. I mean, we've been in touch with people in the Miltech industry, and they are basically doing stuff that Western defense ministries can't, because their procurement systems are so complicated and so encrusted that it takes years to do any of this. I mean, the Ukrainians don't have a choice. They're doing it within weeks and months. So that will be a comparative advantage. I think, there will be adaptation challenges for Ukraine. No doubt, especially with EU candidacy, integration into the EU, fears on the part of neighboring countries, hello Polish farmers, concerning what Ukraine's sort of agricultural powerhouse, the impact it might have. So there's certainly stuff that will need to be addressed, but Ukraine is not at the moment a basket case. It is a country facing various challenges, doing it quite bravely, benefiting from a lot of Western support, very grateful for that support. But I think it will ultimately be repaid by Ukraine as a major contributor to European economic dynamism.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for your input and insight and helping us unpack this very interesting situation. Thanks again for being with us on Eastern Express.
You're very welcome.